Ancient manuscripts and books are on display at the custody of the Holy Land, a way to promote unity between Christians and Jews. A new stage in the mind clearing of the place of the baptism of Jesus. The Custos of the Holy Land has visited the area of the Franciscan chapel, abandoned since the 70s. A 4-day visit to Gaza by the Apostolic Administrator of the Latin Patriarchate, His Excellency Bishop Pizzaballa, to meet the small Christian community of Gaza. Rethinking the Jewish Revolt. This is the title of the symposium held from October the 30th to November the 1st at the Ecole Biblique in Jerusalem. In Nazareth, in addition to the Basilica of the Annunciation, pilgrims can visit the Old City, amongst the places related to Christianity and the daily life of its inhabitants. The Terra Santa Helen Keller School is dedicated to the rehabilitation of the blind and their integration into society. An exhibition on the Bible hosted by the Custody of the Holy Land brings together almost 40 parchments, manuscripts and ancient books. The director of the Library of the Custody, Father Lionel Go, and the curator of the project, Professor Edoardo Barbieri, spoke at the inauguration.
Even though the Bible was born here, it developed in other countries, in Europe. And so when the Franciscans came, they brought other biblical texts with them into the Holy Land. And here when they encountered in their service with the local communities, with the other churches, the Bible text began to grow. The text that we have here in the exhibition is a good example of how vast and how hard-working the Franciscans have been in bringing the Word of God to all the cultures in this region for 800 years.
What is the significance of this exhibition? The title says, "The Bible in Movement, Traditions and Translations of the Bible." Precisely the Bible because it tells the story of salvation. It is not a rigid text. It remains the same story but changing shape all the time. It is not afraid of changing linguistic form, the way it shows itself. It can be the simple text, a book, a parchment. It can be a comment, or it can be illustrated as well as not illustrated. There are so many varieties in the way the Bible can be seen. Professor Edoardo indicates some of the most significant objects in the exhibition. This is the piece that we have chosen to be shown as the symbol of the whole exhibition. We have reproduced it on the cover of the catalogue published by H.E. It is a gospel printed in Arabic, with an interlinear Latin translation, published in Rome in 1591. This is perhaps the most precious piece among those exhibited because it is a Bible published in Italian in 1493 in Venice. It is illustrated with wood carvings and has been translated by a Camaldolese monk, Niccolò Malermi. The first edition came out in 1471, before Luther was born, which means that the experience of the Bible translated into Italian precedes the Protestant Reformation. The extensive work is the result of a collaboration between the European Book Research Centre, the Catholic University of Milan, and the Pro Terra Sancta Association.
A completely new place for me, a fascinating place. I've been here for less than a week, and I feel really great. There's a lot of involvement from the human point of view in the organization of the exhibition. There is a lot of unity and cooperation.
This statement is in full agreement with what Father Dobromir Yatsal, the custodial vicar of the Holy Land, said. He explained how the exhibition, in addition to enhancing the ancient heritage, brings together scholars from different cultural, religious and linguistic experiences. Culture is capable of promoting sharing, encounter and dialogue. It's a cultural discussion, and when it comes to culture, I think there are no more barriers. And if we talk about the book with a capital letter like the Bible, I cannot find words to say anything better. Naturally, our passion as collectors immediately united us and made us instant friends. In the land where the sacred scriptures were born, the exhibition shows that these texts are alive, and even with the passage of time, they do not lose value. On the contrary. A vast area in the desert that leads to the River Jordan, memory of the events of the Old Testament and revered for centuries, like the site of the baptism of Jesus. To get to the banks of the river, the site known as Qasr al-Yahoud, inaugurated in 2011 by Israel, we go down a street where ruins of chapels are seen on both sides, inaccessible until recently between barriers and minefields. On Wednesday, October 31st, on the occasion of the first phase of mine clearance, Father Francesco Patton, Custos of the Holy Land, visited the ruins of the Franciscan chapel built in 1935 and abandoned following the 1967 war. For Father Patton, a very important day.
Direi che l'importanza è duplice. Uno su un piano molto umano.
I would say that the importance is twofold on a very human, practical level. Clearing landmines is always a good thing. We know that mines are terrible weapons. Clearing mine from a field is always a good thing because it means transforming a battlefield into a peace camp.
Trasformare un campo di battaglia in un campo di pace. E poi per noi è
Then for us it is particularly important because here we are on the banks of the River Jordan. And this is the site linked to the event of the baptism of Jesus.
del battesimo di Gesù.
Grazie a Dio veramente il sminamento è stato finito, il sito pulito.
Thank God the mine clearing is over. The site is clean. We have just been inside. We have visited the site. Also last week we had the opportunity to visit the site with architects and engineers and see the conditions. Now we are preparing the preliminary and executive project to restore the site so the pilgrims can visit.
Alla visita dei pellegrini.
For the Hello Trust, it is a honor and it was a challenge to clear this site. And we still have some more work to do before this million square meters will be declared free of mines. But we carry on, we will not stop, and we will complete this mission. It is definitely an honor, to clear and to hand back the third holy site to everybody.
Halo Trust is an organization founded in 1988 dedicated to the demining of the territories. An organization that has long been involved in this area to promote and implement a project that has the flavor of freedom. For the Custos of the Holy Land, it is also a sign of hope.
E se un giorno sarà possibile muoversi su tutto il sito, sarà ancora.
And if one day it will be possible to move around the whole site freely, it will be even more significant because we could go beyond Jordan, making this gesture, which is in memory of Easter as well as the baptism of Jesus, which also reminds us of the passage of the chosen people of God into the Holy Land, but also recalls the passage of Elijah and Elisha, and also the passage of Jesus and the apostles who moved freely from one bank to another.
Con libertà da una riva all'altra.
In a 4-day pastoral visit, His Excellency Bishop Pizzaballa, Apostolic Administrator of the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem, met the Christian community of Gaza.
My second visit to Gaza in 4 days was very interesting, very useful to me to understand. It was a wonderful occasion to meet the Christian community of Gaza, to be with them first concerns, but also their hopes.
An opportunity for His Excellency Pizzaballa to meet the different realities of the local Christian community, such as schools, social activities, scouts, youngsters and youth groups, but also to share a few moments with the neediest families.
The difficulties that Gaza is living, the blockade and a lot of problems that everyone knows, I have to say that the Christian community of Gaza remained united. Of course, there are the little issues everywhere, but this is a great encouragement to me.
The Apostolic Administrator then concluded his visit by celebrating Holy Mass in the Latin parish of the Holy Family, which includes around 140 Catholics. Gathering together the major experts from Canada, United States, Europe and Israel, and the French Biblical School of Archaeology of Jerusalem, the Ecole Biblique creates an international congress on the topic of rethinking the Jewish war. The first Jewish war against the Romans from 66 to 70 BC affected part of the territory of Israel, starting under the reign of Nero and ending under the reign of Vespasian.
La guerre des Juifs a été un événement très important puisque elle a conduit
A very important war because it led to the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem, a sort of trauma for the history of the whole country. And evidently, after numerous years, archaeology allowed us to better link what has happened in different places, certainly Masada, but there are also other sites where revolts between the Jewish and the Romans happened.
Il y a eu des affrontements entre les révoltes juives et les armées romaines.
Really want to do is have an interdisciplinary meeting where we have the evidence of all the archaeologists and the particular sites of what they'd seen actually on the ground as the results of this war. At the same time, we're looking at a lot of texts and trying to understand them more carefully, which give reports of the war. So the most famous historian who gives us a very complete account is Josephus.
From Josephus' times to these days, many are the accounts in circulation. The recent study on the war published by Steve Manson offers a new and important interpretation of the events and opens new scenarios.
So the Jewish War of 66 to 74 is probably the most consequential war in the West. That is to say, it may not be as important as the First World War or Second for recent history, but it shaped 2,000 years of history, especially under Christian leadership. So, because it was crucial for Christianity that the temple be destroyed.
Although it remains one of the most captivating conflicts of all times, this symposium allowed us to deeply examine and rethink central aspects of this mythical story.
Et pour l'École Biblique, c'est très important d'accueillir ce genre.
It is very important for the Ecole Biblique to host the conference these days, for we are not the only place of teaching of the Bible, of the architecture and the history of the Near East, as are the Franciscans or the other institutions in Jerusalem. But our education must be nourished by research. Research does not only pass through what we do here, but it is what other universities in the world do as well. The old city of Nazareth, within walking distance of the Basilica of the Annunciation, we enter the Arab market, and there we find a place rich in cultural heritage, opportunities to learn about the daily life of its inhabitants, and so to dive into the history of Christianity. An example is the synagogue church from the times of Jesus, where according to tradition Jesus pronounced the prophecy from Isaiah, which would have been the prefiguration of his public life. The Spirit of the Lord God is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and freedom to the prisoners. The sanctuary currently belongs to the Greek Catholic Church. An ancient Maronite convent is found within 300 meters, where on Sundays the Mass is still celebrated for the local community. Continuing then, we find the main Islamic place of worship in Nazareth, the White Mosque, a fusion of tradition and history. Among the many families who live there, we find the Armenian one. Giro Bogossian and his children were born in Israel, but his parents came from Turkey after the Armenian genocide between 1915 and 1923. To maintain their roots, the language is transmitted from father to son. Generally speaking, children learn how to speak Armenian at home. Here we don't have an Armenian school with language teachers. Armenian schools are only found in Jerusalem. Walking down the narrow streets, we find a market with products consumed by residents and visitors. Goods of domestic use, fruit, vegetables, clothing, shoes, accessories, cafes, restaurants, art galleries and artisanal shops. Garments that are typical of Muslim women are found everywhere. Veils of different colors and fabrics are essential items. The old area of the city is found within the Nazareth of today, that is considered one of the holiest places in the world, and of which 1/3 of inhabitants is Christian. Despised at the time of Jesus, it reminds us about the times of his hidden life. The family who has been owning the religious supply store for 40 years states that the old city of Nazareth should be included in the itineraries. It is a very quiet place. Tourists and pilgrims can come to visit the holy places. There is no safety issue. There are no issues in visiting the old city. I was frustrated because every time I was told I did not advance in my studies, my classmates would make fun of me. There is no doubt that each of us has the ability to change and achieve success. In spite of the harshness of certain circumstances, we are able with willpower to make our way and to achieve with determination what we seek. The experience of Abdul Rahman is proof that with determination, it is possible to overcome any challenge. Seeing a blind boy walking on a wooden beam 10 centimeters wide at a height of more than a meter is impressive. It's a goal. The first fall is just the beginning. Not to give up and keep on training. The Terra Santa Helen Keller School has set a goal to educate a generation of confident young men and women who are able to persevere, to achieve their goals and develop their skills. I thank this school, which helped me change a lot. I did not imagine it would be like this. I would have to walk alone, trust myself. It's a big change to start from scratch. I could not read, handwrite, or type on a computer. I had no self-esteem, but now I can say, I have won. Dr. Helen Keller, to whom the school owes its name, is a model for the blind, for all she has managed to do despite all the challenges she had faced. She said, "Blind and deaf people have minds that can be developed, hands to train, and aspirations to reach. It is up to us to help them." And continuing its humanitarian mission, the custody of the Holy Land, present here for 800 years, has done its best to include the Terra Santa Helen Keller School in the group of schools it administers in the Holy City. This is a great message from the custody of the Holy Land for the blind. We are taking a big step to include this school in our work, and this is a message to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem. The custody of the Holy Land is helping those who need it most, and it is from this desire that this initiative is born. I thank my Lord for everything. When I lost my sight, I found myself faced with many difficulties, but I will never give up.
بس مستحيل استسلم لا